Hi. So I'm just back from a week in the Middle East. I went to Doha in Qatar, which is on the Arabian Gulf. And there's a lot of oil there, and there's a lot of sand, and there's a lot of money. But there also was a school full of kids, and that's why I went there, to talk to them about art and creativity and stuff like that. So, and all the time that I was there, I was thinking, I've got to do my homework for Sabine's class. Sabine is teaching at SketchbookSkool this week, and her homework assignment is about infographics, which is where you explain things by combining drawings and bits of text. She takes us through a 4-step process for developing an infographic, and the first step is to explore potential topics, potential content, and to pick something that you think is interesting, and then to catalog what's good and bad about it. What kind of information do you want to relay in your infographic. Now, we went to, one of the days that I was there, we went to the Doha camel market, not to buy cartons of cigarettes, but to check out the critters. Camels are very weird. They're sort of like horses, sort of like goats, and mainly like something out of Star Wars. And there's lots of interesting things about them that I learned. So I thought, okay, that's going to be my topic. My topic is to explain what the ships of the desert are all about. So the next step is to figure out your design. And Sabine offers different suggestions, like, you might want to group them into a collection, you might want to scatter them around the page, you might want to have some kind of order to them and put them across in a grid, you might want to draw a map, you might want to have a cut section of one to show different bits of it. But I decided I wanted to do something fairly straightforward, where I would have a main camel in the middle, and then have some camel faces and other bits around the edges, and that I would have call-outs, little bits of text with lines that connected to the relevant bit of camel to explain the fact that I was going to put out there. The next step that Sabine suggests is to show. What are you going to show? Are you going to draw stuff from your imagination? Are you going to draw from observation? And I decided I'm going to make my camels pretty realistic, even though they're sort of unreal looking critters. And so I did some drawings while I was there at the camel market, and I did some other drawings from my photos. And so here's a bunch of different pictures that I drew. But going back to stage 2, I had to figure out how to lay these out, because I'd done these drawings without really thinking about the big picture. So what I decided to do was to take pictures of each one with my camera, and then send them to my laptop and put them into InDesign, which is a page layout program. And in InDesign, I was going to move stuff around and resize it and make them different bits so I could fit the whole thing onto an 11 by 17 page. And then I printed them out, actually in the school library, and I printed out this kind of layout that I had done, and I started to work on it and to think about how I was going to lay those words out. Sabine's final step is to tell the information. So to write down the words that go with these pictures, and you can make them sort of subjective and talk about your personal experience. And I could have talked about how I felt about camels, but I decided instead that I would focus really on actual facts about them, because they are so extraordinary. And my main subjective fact was that I was kind of repelled by camels, and that they smelled sort of like camels, sort of like horses in a bit, but they're slightly more sinister somehow, and they have these, I don't know, there was here's something that happened that I didn't actually depict, but camels, this one camel started making this strange kind of slurping, hissing noise, and then suddenly a giant thing came out of its mouth that didn't seem like a tongue. It seemed like, I don't know, like a giant alien creature that it's kind of slithered out of its side of its head and flapped around, and then he sucked it back in, and he kept making this weird noise and doing this, and I thought like he had a mouth tumor or something. Well, it turns out that that's actually a normal thing that male camels do when they're in heat and so forth. So that was subjective horror, However, it was also an objective fact that this is what they do. So I'm trying to, remain scientific and clinical in putting together my infographic rather than making it about myself, as I usually do. And once I had this print out, I also decided to add a little bit of color to it, and with some watercolor. And now down to the hand lettering, to just write down all these facts and put them in the relevant bits of the page. There are 160 other words for camel in Arabic. Asian camels have 2 humps, and Arabians have 1. The humps are the only fat that's on a camel's body. They have 2 different rows of eyelashes to keep out all the dust. A camel's pee is as thick as syrup. Camel's milk is actually closest to human milk. Sounds a little gross, but they have 10 times the iron and 3 times the vitamin C of a cow milk. And of course, they're known as the ship of the desert. So there you have it, my infographic about camels. Combining a drawing and words like this is fun. It's also a really interesting and direct way of communicating, and certainly more interesting than a stupid list or listicle, which is the trendy thing these days on the internet. So this is more, well, it was a bit of a test doing this, so you could think of it as a sort of a testicle. Well, never mind. Anyway, it's fun to do, and I look forward to next week's homework at Sketchbook School.